Doug Smith with another restaurant mastermind here on LinkedIn. I'm talking to Monte Silva. Monte has been in the restaurant business for 40 plus years, worked with restaurants that are run by such names as Wolfgang Puck and Jeff Ruby. And what I want to talk to you about, Monte, is the customer experience. It's so competitive in the restaurant space today. And you have, as a restaurant, you market, you do everything correctly to get somebody inside of your four walls. And what I find so often is once they're in, it's kind of like, well, okay, I got them, they're here, and they miss that customer experience. And that's really one of your big fortes. So as you consult and you talk with your clients in different restaurants, what's the one missing piece when it comes to the customer experience that seems to be missing today that people can quickly try to fix?
Well, hi, Doug. Thanks for having me on your show. And hi to all your audience, and hopefully you'll enjoy this. So I think that's where it starts. You're right. You spend all this money trying to get people in, and that's really where your job really starts as a restaurateur. It's how the guest is treated, whether they're going to come back or not, whether they're going to, we live in a world now where, everyone that may have watched an episode of Chop is ready to go tell the world what they think of their experience, and kind of self-proclaimed experts. And so it's super important that if you don't want social media out there trashing you, or you don't want word of mouth trashing your restaurant, that it's super important to really, that's where the real work starts, is when the guest walks into your building.
So your post, which led to you and I talking here the other day, was talking about the management side of things and the hiring and training your staff. And it's really a mix. You want to train who you currently have, but it's also about bringing in the overall right people, because it all starts at the top, right? When it talks about, here's the customer, how can we create such a valuable experience? So talk about that. How do you train your current staff? How do you find the right people, and how do you mix them together so that everyone understands the mission and the vision of the restaurant on how to create that engagement?
Right. Well, I've been honored and blessed to be able to have some great mentors in my life, and one of the things that I learned early on is the people that work for you are really the ones that make or break your restaurant. And so selection is very, very important, and that's where it all starts, because if you're opening a new restaurant, you don't have any current employees at that time. So I tend to look for people that have more of the mindset of hospitality than technically the skill set. And so I'll give you an example. When I moved back to Nashville to open the Jeff Ruby Steakhouse here in Nashville, I collected a bunch of resumes, and I put them in order of most experienced to least experienced. And I started the interview process with the most experienced. And that's really what got people the interview. But as I moved through the interviews, what got them the job was their personality, how they responded to questions. And it was more about finding good people that do the right thing, because hospitality is not hospitality if you're just working the guest for a gratuity. It's about how you treat your fellow employees, how you take responsibility for your job, as well as how you care for the guest. And so I really focus first on hiring people that can be trained to do some of the systems and service aspects of the business and the technical aspects, because that's a lot easier to train than personality and just basically just hiring people that care. So that's where I start. And then training programs are very, very important. Not cutting corners. A lot of times, we want to try to save a little money here and there, but it's really important to spend the money, decrease turnover, decrease mistakes on your hiring, and really set people up for success. And then after I've hired great people and put them through great training programs, I kind of just get out of their way, because at that point they have the right attitude, they have the tools they need, And then I'm there just to support them, to walk through the dining room, talk to tables, support them if they need help open a bottle of wine, or, you know, a lot of times can't always control getting double sat or something like that. So just taking the initiative on the floor to proactively help them make the dining experience great.
You just mentioned what my next question was going to be, lead by example. You had mentioned earlier, before we started recording, an example that you had where you would go through and kind of get a feel for who they were coming in tonight, if it was a first date or if it was ladies, and try to help customize their experience. Talk about that mindset, because I think that's something, maybe a lot of people do it. I haven't seen it. So talk about that idea.
Sure. I think that a lot of restaurateurs make the mistake of trusting the book to sometimes your least experienced employee. You know, hosts, a lot of times that's kind of an entry job, and unless you're really spending money to get more of a maitre d' or somebody that's really, really focused on the guest experience, a lot of times you have, you know, younger, less experienced people, and a lot of times we trust the book to them, and as managers, we feel that it's not important to look through who's coming into your restaurant. But that's a way to proactively help make sure that the guest experience is great. So one of the things that I did, that I've done in the past and that I continue to do when I'm in a restaurant, is I look at the book every day. I may not plot every single table, but if I look through and I see that, you know, a VIP is coming in and they always sit at booth 29, then I want to make sure that that guest is taken care of. If there's a guest who's celebrating their first date with their spouse since their child was born, that's a big deal. You know, someone is trusting us with a special moment, and you know, the mom's been trapped in the house taking care of the baby, and she needs a break. And it's important that we provide those kinds of experiences that are tailored to the guest. You know, if there's a reservation and it says it's, you know, my husband just came back from serving overseas, that's a special event, you know, and it's our responsibility, because they've entrusted us to care for them during these special times. It's up to us to really make sure that those are special. So catering to that situation where, you know, if it's first time that the couple's been out on a date for a while, they probably don't want a really chatty server. They want to have some time alone. Maybe they want a little corner banquette where they can sit and hold hands. You know, my wife likes to look at me. I like to sit close enough to have a more intimate conversation. So the nice thing about those little corner banquettes is you can look at each other and still be closer to your date than the next table. And so you look for opportunities like that to really make something special.
And you gave one example about some restaurateurs up in Chicago have taken it even a step further by essentially researching their customers before they come in. Now that's really taken it to a next level, but explain that.
Yeah, so Michael Muser and Chef Curtis Duffy had a restaurant called Grace, and they're about to open up a restaurant called Ever. I think it's opening next month. And they actually Googled every guest on OpenTable, and they would try to find out as much as they can. Not weird stuff, but just things that they could use to enhance the experience. So, you know, a chef friend of mine went up there one time and they invited him back to the kitchen, and he didn't really know why. And they explained, well, we know that you were a chef in Tennessee, and we thought you might like to come meet Chef Curtis and see the kitchen. So it's things like that. You know, Danny Meyer has a position he calls a dream catcher, where their job is to go through reservations and look to see how they might really go above and beyond the experience and really create something memorable. Because, you know, ultimately, especially in some of those nicer restaurants, you're spending that kind of money. It's got to be a pretty life-altering, you know, situation. If you're going to go eat at Alinea and drop a lot of money on an incredible over-the-top dinner, then having a life experience that you can talk about and remember, you know, is super important. And it's our job as restaurateurs to create those.
So we've talked about some of the higher end restaurants, obviously, but in the fast food, fast casual segment, everything else, everyone talks about Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A has like set the standard. And I personally find it ironic that people know, you can obviously see what their playbook is, but people don't copy it. So what's the missing thing here? Maybe I'm just not seeing it in the fact that people being restaurants are so keyed in on, I got to get new customers, that they're forgetting about the lowest hanging fruit, which is their current customers, their VIPs. Chick-fil-A's figured it out. You've figured it out. People like Jeff Ruby, who again, here in Cincinnati, I've been to the Precinct, I've been to a steakhouse downtown. He's got it figured out. But what makes it so hard that it seems like the majority of the restaurants haven't quite figured out the idea that take care of who's in there already in your four walls as opposed to the new? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's, I think that there's a complacency sometimes where, you know, the guest is in there and they feel like they've done their job, like you said earlier, that question. The other thing is, I think that people don't focus enough on people and who you hire, as I mentioned, because you as a manager, you're not going to be on the floor every day. You're going to have a couple days off. If you're a restaurant owner, you may not be in the restaurant regularly, and so it's really the people, trusting that the people are going to take care of things. And one thing that Chick-fil-A has done a really great job of is that's their focus. They focus on hiring great people, and that starts at the top. You know, a lot of franchises, if you've got the money to do a franchise, they'll take it, you know, and it's harder to control the experience when your only prerequisite for a franchisee is, yeah, they can write a check. Chick-fil-A has a different approach. Their priority is not who has the money, because they've got plenty of money to franchise places. It's about the operator. It's about the heads, you know, space of the operator. Do they care about people? Are they going to take care of their employees? And a lot of times, you know, we focus so much on the guest that we aren't prioritizing the employee. And if we don't create that kind of a culture, then it's very difficult to get employees to take care of the guests when we're not taking care of the employees. So that's something Chick-fil-A has mastered, and they do a great job. You know, they see a line formed at their, you know, lunch at their drive-through all day long, every day, and they'll send extra people out there with computers to take the orders and move people through the line. And, you know, you drive by Chick-fil-A and you're like, should I pull in there? Look at how long that line is. But they really do get people through very, very quickly and very, very hospitably. And I think that that's really the key to places like that. I think you can have elevated experiences without necessarily pulling out the credit card for a big dinner.
Excellent stuff. Monte Silva, again, 40 plus years in the restaurant industry, great insight. And if somebody watching this right now wants to learn more, wants to reach out to you, you're free to connect with additional people here on LinkedIn. I'm happy to make that overall connection, but any last thing that you would like to plug and or mention, this is your opportunity.
Great, thanks. Well, if you want to follow on LinkedIn, I write a post every Monday called #Restaurateur. I'm starting a YouTube channel that'll be doing the same thing. I'll be taking a walk through a park and just chatting about different topics. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
Excellent. Monte Silva, another restaurant mastermind here on LinkedIn. Appreciate your insight, sir. Appreciate your time. Enjoyed the conversation.
Great, Doug. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.